Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, this is Associate Professor Agerico de Villa. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Sorry for that. So, we're live on YouTube. I've given you the link. Please check the link. Here it is. Let me share the screen. Okay. You can see here the link. I've just announced it. There you go. I am live streaming from my office here at the department. That's how I should look like. All right, can everybody see it? That's me. Well, that was me last semester. But thanks to the lockdowns and now our situation, now here I am. Long hair. Next meeting, I'll have my lamps. I don't have my lamps now. I forgot. I left them at home. So here it is, 2:30 to 4, Philosophical Analysis course, Philo 1. Okay, let me repeat. I am Associate Professor Agerico Victor Celestino Montesilio de Villa. I'm an Associate Professor at the Philosophy Department. I teach Mathematical Logic, Philo 1, of course, and Philosophy of Science. I'm also into Philosophy of Artificial Intelligence, but I'll tell you about it later. So, what's our course? Well, here's our course. Philosophical Analysis. All right. Philo 1. Now, before we go into the nitty-gritties, let's get back to our Google Classroom. Okay. So we're supposed to be live broadcast, simulcast with Streamyard and Facebook, the same time YouTube. But right now we're only using YouTube and our Google Classroom unit. Why? Well, somebody tried to hack into my Facebook account this morning, and I've been warned by Facebook administrators. So we're setting aside our Facebook broadcast for the moment. Maybe next meeting we'll do that. And at the same time, let me tell you about the Streamyard Participation. All right. This is Streamyard. There you go. At the moment, I'm planning on inviting 10 student guests every meeting. In other words, 10 of you will be invited next meeting to participate live here with Streamyard. And so, your participation will literally be broadcast together with me. And whatever you say will be recorded during the broadcast. Now, we will do that 10 at a time, and then when we get the hang of it, then we will enjoin everybody by the end of the semester to be part of the broadcast. But for now, live StreamYard broadcast is only reserved for those guests that I'm going to invite, which will include some other professors and some visiting scientists and professors who might be here in the Philippines, might accept our invitation. Some, for example, I'm planning on inviting, for example, people who are experts in artificial intelligence. one or two of them. I know one of them is positive about the invitation. We'll see. Now, with regards to Facebook, I've already said that's suspended for the moment because of the hacking attempt this morning. Now, we are live on on YouTube. All right. Now, for the moment, any reaction that you have to say, any participation that you'd like to have, will have to come in the form of, in this case, let me share with you, all right, the screen. In this case, our participation will come in the form of our Google Classroom unit chat for the moment. All right, chat is the only available means for participation. But that's only for today. As I have pointed out earlier, if you have noticed, I've called your attention already to the use of the Mentimeter. We are going to use the Mentimeter as our form of class participation. So by next meeting, I will expect everybody to have already their Mentimeter accounts, and they should be one way or the other well-versed already in the use of the Mentimeter. But for now, this is what we're going to use. Okay, before anything else also, we need to have our attendance check. So please fill out the forms here. All right. There you go. See, attendance form. We need to check the attendance. Why? Let me call your attention to what I've already posted. Hopefully you would have already seen by this time. We have class rules. And a very important rule at that here. Anyone absent during 20% or more of the class sessions is going to be given a grade of 5. That's a failing mark. Why? Why? There's a good reason. All right? As students of the University of the Philippines, you are to be treated as scholars of the nation. Scholar ng bayan. Meaning to say, our nation, which has not so much in terms of resources, and there are so many of us, 107 million Filipinos. We have not enough for everyone. Our resources, like a blanket, you pull the blanket to one side, some other fellow on the other side of the bed is not going to have his own part of the blanket. Meaning to say, we spend so much here at UP for you as students. Time, money, effort, and sacrifice. Time, money, effort, and sacrifice. All right? Let me call your attention to what we do here at UP. Okay. So here I am. I teach. It's a sad day today. One of my colleagues has just passed. I mean, she died. Sad day, why? Because our situation as professors here at the university is not the same as professors in Hong Kong or in Tokyo or in Taipei or Singapore. When I retire, I do not have enough, I do not have much on which I can count on. Same with my colleagues. You know, some of my colleagues have gone sick, have gone ill, and they don't even have enough to pay for their hospital bills. But they have known that. When they have come to teach at the university, ever since they have known that. Their own teachers, their own professors have told them that you teach here takes an amount of sacrifice. So, what am I telling you? Well, as students, the nation spends time, money, effort, and in our case, sacrifice on you. We could have spent our sacrifice on somebody else. Here at Metro Manila, our lifespan is around 69 years. On the average, we live around 69 years old here in Metro Manila. Good. It's very good. But if you go to the other places in the Philippines, like the Muslim Mindanao areas, the Bangsamoro areas, you know, they have been under so much strife for a long time. Economic development is so far away from many places there along the Bangsamoro region. So, what's the point? Well, they have an average lifespan of 44, not even 45 years old. 69 compared to 44. One-third of their lives gone. Why? Because by sheer misfortune, they are born in those places, while we are born in Metro Manila and we live here. So, very unfortunate. Now, what are we saying? We spend so much time, money, effort, sacrifice on you here at UP, and then you waste those resources. Because time, money, effort, and sacrifice, they are resources. Resources that we could offer to other Filipinos, but they are offered to you. Now, when you do not pay attention to the things that you need to do here at the university, then all those resources gone to waste. We don't like that. It's like there's somebody hungry beside you, and you have food, and you throw the food somewhere to be eaten up by some fish in a river, and your fellow human being by your side goes hungry. We don't want that. All right? You pull the blanket to one side, some other fellow will have no blanket on the other side. That's a mortal sin. From the point of view of a university like UP, that's a mortal sin. You don't do that. So, let me get back to what I've just been saying all along. All right? Anyone absent during 20% or more of the class sessions is going to be given a grade of 5. There you go. That's included in your, all right, class rules. As you can see here, it's right here. Anyone absent during 20% or more of the time, more of the class sessions is going to be given a grade of 5. All right, keep that in mind. Now, however, anyone excused, in other words, anyone who gives an excuse, anyone excused from being absent, he may be given either a make-up examination, if that is the case, or a grade of drop if catching up with the class is not possible anymore. Now, keep in mind, let me highlight it here. Excuse is not the same as mere justification. All right? Now, what's an excuse? Well, let me explain. What is an excuse? So, supposing you're a varsity member of the basketball team and there's a crucial game. If we win, wait, do we ever win basketball games? No. We were second last year. Okay, anyway, supposing you're a varsity member and you're a star member of the team, a very important member of the team. And the team, in this case, basketball team, has a game that is crucial. If the team wins, then the team becomes the basketball champions. And if we become the basketball champions, then the university becomes the UAAP overall champion. That's good. But the problem is, supposing you have a game, you're the star player, and the crucial game falls on a date where you're supposed to have your examination in this class. Problem. Take the game or take the exam. Play the game or take the exam. You have a dilemma. Now, supposing you choose to become a hero. And so choosing to become a hero, you play the game. We win the game, we become basketball champions, we become UAAP overall champions. Very good. I will congratulate you for it, but I will still give you a grade of 0, a failing mark for your exam. Why? Because you made the choice. In other words, if you are going to make a choice, you better know what that choice is all about. Because you are in control of your life. As college students, you control your lives. And being in control of your life, you make a choice. Either you play the game or you take the exam. You play the game, then you be prepared for the consequences. You take the exam, then you be prepared for the consequences. But you cannot have both. The university is here, especially our class is here for you to be able to learn academic lessons. That's the primary goal of the university. That's why it's called a university. So, if you have a mere justification, that's just like saying, well, because I'm a varsity player, I have to play the game. That's a justification. All right. But that's not an excuse. An excuse has two dimensions. One, the excuse involves some justification. There you go. And it involves a situation where the student has no choice at all. A situation where the student has no choice at all but to be absent. For example, you have come to be hospitalized, maybe fallen ill thanks to COVID-19, or you have met an accident, maybe some train has run over you, or you have been kidnapped and you have been buried 6 feet underground. Even if you wanted to come to the university and take the exam, no way you could have taken the exam. Therefore, you're excused. There is no choice involved. All right? So, you come to me, you have an excuse. The excuse must, one, be a justification acceptable to university standards. And two, it must be a case where the student, you, have no choice at all but to be absent. All right? If you have no excuse, then you're given a grade of 5. All right? Ergo, please, all right, fill up the attendance form. Okay? We have it here. Attendance form. Okay? So far, so good. Any comments? Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't be afraid. Comments are welcome. All right? As a rule, keep in mind, complaints are welcome. All right? Criticism of the professor is welcome. However, preferably, if you do have complaints and you have criticism, you communicate to me. However, if you don't want to communicate to me the complaint or the criticism, you can communicate it to your classmates who can then communicate to me. All right? Why that's important, that's part of our lesson. We'll deal with that next meeting when we deal with ancient Greece and philosophy and democracy. Meanwhile, let's get back to this. So much about attendance. Oh, by the way, what are your grades? I've already pointed them out in our class rules. All right? Grades are going to be based on the following items. You have 2 long examinations. I'll send them to you by email. You answer them within 24 hours. All right? And then you send me back the answers. And you can earn bonus points. That's the reason why we have recitation. Because we are going to give bonus points via our Mentimeter interaction. That's why we need the Mentimeter. All right? There will be problem-solving exercises that we will give using the Mentimeter tools. Passing grade is 75. Why? Because this is supposed to be a high school subject matter. As you will see later on, while from one point of view, things we deal with look complicated or sophisticated, at the very bottom, actually, they're really simple. But let me tell you, while to begin with, our passing grade is 75, we may adjust the passing grade. Like last semester, given our condition, our situation, we had to adjust the passing grade from 75 to 85. So, I'm just kidding. All right, depending on our, I'm just kidding, I was just joking. Depending on our normal curve, supposing we have a normal curve, for this and the other classes, I have 3 classes in all, I will put all the data together. And if I see that given the normal curve, the indication is that I, as the professor, have not really been delivering that much to you, then I will adjust and I will adjust the passing grade. Maybe like last semester, we adjusted the passing grade from 75 to 50. So last semester, passing grade was 50%. But we still have to see. We'll check later. So depending students. It used to be required of all UP students of the entire system. Now it is only UP that requires it. Now why? All right, did you know that philosophical analysis, as we are taking it up at UP, used to be required of all students taking up college education in the entire Philippines? When the first Commission on Higher Education, sometime in the early 1990s, was established, by coincidence, all the members of the commission were graduates of UP. Being graduates of UP, they saw that it was necessary for all college students of the entire Philippines. They saw it necessary to require them to take up philosophical analysis. Now, before that, all UP students have been required to take up philosophy ever since, even since the early 1900s. Now, we'll go into the nitty-gritties of it, but let me tell you about the story of the Commission on Higher Education. Later on, it has been decided between the Commission on Higher Education and the Department of Education that the first two years of college education will be integrated with the high school education we already have with the Department of Education. And the Commission on Higher Education agreed, and so the Commission on Higher Education now has let go of the first two years courses in college to be taken up in grades 11 and 12, taken up in senior high. So we now have a senior high school system where philosophical analysis is taken up not anymore at college, not anymore at the college level. Problem, why? Because when philosophical analysis was brought down to the Department of Education, those in charge of the Department of Education were from Catholic schools. And in Catholic schools, when they teach philosophy, they do not take up logic. They do not take up logic. Let me call your attention to our course description. This is a course on philosophical analysis dealing with the nature and limits of reasoning. When you deal with the nature and limits of reasoning, when you deal with reasoning per se, you're dealing with logic. Now, in particular, at UP, we deal with logic, mathematical logic. It's like requiring everybody to take up arithmetic. The basics of reasoning, like the basics of arithmetic, you have to have. And the basics of reasoning go with studies in logic. Now, this is the problem. When philosophical analysis has come to be required by the Department of Education to be taken up either at the level of grade 11 or the level of grade 12, the topic of logic was lost. So, when they teach philosophical analysis in high school, all right, when they take it up in senior high, there is nothing on logic. Let me now see if I am right or if I am wrong. Everyone, let me ask you a question. Any one of you have taken up a course on the nature and limits of reasoning in senior high, at the senior high level? Question. All right, I'm posting it as part of our chat. I hope some of you will reply. I hope some of you will reply. All right? Is there any comment at the moment? Okay. Chances are you will say no. We have not taken up any course on the nature or limits of reasoning. Logic? Anyone? High school? Meron ba? Okay, one answer. No, sir. We were only studying about philosophers. All right. Well, at least pinag-usapan ninyo yung mga philosophers. You know, well, at least you study philosophers. That's good enough. But we really need to focus on this. Reasoning. Everything you do in science has to do with reasoning. All right? That's the most important skill that we have to reason. Question, what do you do when you reason? What is it that anyone does when he reasons? We have to answer those questions. All right? Now, anyway, let me get back to my story. So now, we are requiring philosophical analysis for high school students, but they do not take up logic. So, UP Diliman has decided we will require it still as part of your courses requirements at the college level here at UP. So it's required. Now, there's another side to it. What's the other side to it? This is the problem. You see, it used to be required of all UP students since 1908. And then, used to be required under philosophical analysis, Philo 1. And something happens in the year 2000. In the year 2000, for some strange reason, the university administration has decided the requirement of taking up philosophical analysis, the requirement of taking up philosophy is going to be only as a matter of an elective. UP students are required to take up electives. Philosophical analysis has come to be just one of the many choices of electives. So, beginning the year 2000, you could actually graduate from UP without taking up anything on logic. Now, let me tell you a story. I like telling stories. As a young kid in the 20th century, you know, I have been born in the middle of the 20th century. I'm a product of the 20th century. And what's the story? Well, as a young kid, I used to watch the old Flash Gordon TV programs. I used to watch Lost in Space. I used to see Jetsons. I used to wait all the time for the new episode of Star Trek. I love Star Wars. In other words, the 20th century was so much about space exploration. In fact, historians call the 20th century as the age of space technology, sometimes referred to as space age. And who is our idol? Our idol was Neil Armstrong. One small step for mankind, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. All right? So, how do historians refer to the 20th century? It's referred to as the space age or the age of space exploration. Now, let's talk about our national hero, Jose Rizal. The 1800s, the 19th century. The 19th century was another age. It was the age of Alexander Graham Bell. It was the age of Nikola Tesla. It was the age of Thomas Edison. Ergo, has been called the age of inventors. Now, what's the point? In the age of inventors, if you have a nation whose economy is not compatible with the inventions of the time, what were the important inventions? You have the telegraph, you have the dynamo, you have the locomotive engine, you have the steam engine at large, you have the telephone, and so many of these. If your economy is not compatible with the use of the telegraph and the telephone, for example, your economy would not have been competitive. Same in the 20th century. If your economy has not been compatible with the technologies involved with space technology like satellites, satellite communication, then your economy would not have been competitive. Now, 21st century. What do you call the 21st century? We call it the age of information communication technology. If your economy is not compatible with the information communication technology available to everybody, your economy would not be competitive. So what are we dealing with here? This is the age of information communication technology. As the University of the Philippines goes into the age of information communication technology, the year 2000, it declares that philosophical analysis that deals with a course on the natural limits of reasoning, that deals with the nature of logic, is not going to be required anymore of students. You see, information communication technology is dependent on computers. Computers are dependent on computer programming. And computer programming, of course, is dependent on logic. No logic, no discipline of logic, no computer technology. No programming, no computer technology. No programming, no computer technology, no information communication technology. And so there you see the reason why Diliman had to put its foot down. In other words, Diliman had to stand its ground. When the university system was saying, you know, philosophy will only become an elective, that was the year 2000. From the year 2000 to the year 2010, the departments, the many departments of UP Diliman have insisted on their students taking up philosophical analysis and logic. Later comes the year 2010, Diliman says by its own regulations, it is now a requirement of all students of Diliman. And so up to now, you are required. But we are the only campus in the entire system that requires taking up philosophical analysis and logic in the age of information communication technology. Maybe I have to ask you how to react to that story. All right? In the entire Philippines, we could have prepared. In the entire Philippines, we could have prepared for the age of information communication technology. So are we prepared for it? In terms of our academic courses in high school. All right, may preparation po tayo dyan. Any preparation? I'm now making a comment. Let me read some of your comments. All right. Wow, ang daming comment. Not taken up. Unfortunately, we did not study logic. All right, we took up philosophy but mainly discussed philosophers. Meron konting mathematical logic. That's good. You're Miss Inaw, you're probably from a science high school. We have taken up logic. Whoa, very good, Miss Arada. Chicken. Madali lang klase sa'yo pagka nagkataon. Alright? So, good. We have someone who's taken up logic. Alright, mainly everybody has come to study philosophers. History of philosophy, maybe. Fallacies, Mr. Cruz, that's important. That's very important. We'll have to deal with that. You know, even artificial intelligence have to deal with fallacies. And when we later on come to have Mr. Aaron Cruz, artificial general intelligence They themselves will have to deal with fallacies. Fallacies have to be dealt with in computer programming. I'll tell you about it. All right. Oh, we have logic and reasoning. Very good, Miss Pedero. That's good. You're probably from the Philippine Science High School. I have come across students who have taken up logic at the Philippine Science High School. Okay, let me get back to our discussion. So there you have it. Diliman requires, but not all of UP system. Only Diliman requires. In fact, there was a vote that challenged the requirement of Diliman, but fortunately, Diliman was able to stand its ground. And so we still maintain UP students in Diliman, at Diliman, are still required to take up philosophical analysis, required to take up so much about logic. All right. Now, let me read. At the end of the semester, the student should have enough understanding of the nature and limits of reasoning, so as to be able to cite examples of philosophical analysis in the areas of philosophy. Like, all right, let me count. 1, in the area of philosophy of science. 2, in the area of logic, of course. 3, philosophy of language. 4, political philosophy. 5, philosophy of art. 6, ethics. 7, environmental philosophy. 8, philosophy of sport. 9, philosophy of history. And 10, philosophy of artificial intelligence. Actually, we can take up more, but I think 10 is enough. All right? And at the end of it all, we will be able, well, hopefully, we should be able to connect the issues of science, say, for example, to the issues of art, and connect the issues of art to the issues of environment, or the issues of sport, and connecting the issues of sport to the issues of politics, and so on and so forth. You see, that's what we do when we do philosophy. We connect, we build networks, we build systems, we connect our thoughts to one another in our minds. All right. Let me show you a photograph. See this? Ganda. All right. That's a photograph of the rising sun. All right. Early morning photograph of the sun. Now, imagine, by the way, I've gotten this courtesy of Stan Carey. That's his name. All right. Can you see it? From Wikimedia. All right. Wikimedia. All right. So there goes. There you go. You have the sun. So what's the point? Imagine you're looking at the sun and you are an astronomer, a scientist. An astronomer, a scientist. And what's the situation? As an astronomer, you know that the sun is actually stationary. And that it is in fact the earth that is moving around the sun, orbiting around it. But in fact, it is the earth that is revolving, and therefore you get the impression that the sun is rising from the horizon, which it is not. You know that, being a scientist. Now, imagine beside you is a friend, an indigenous person from, say, the Mangyan tribes of the hinterlands of Mindoro. So, hinterlands of Mindoro, Mangyan, probably has not even read a single book. But the point is, supposing you are that kind of a person, and you look at the same sun. So there are two of you. One is an astronomer looking at the sun. Another is someone from the hinterlands of Mindoro, an indigenous person, looking at the same sun. Do they see the same thing? That's the question. All right. If you have an astronomer, and an indigenous person who knows nothing about science, and you look at the sun, do you see the same things? That's my question. All right, I see some comments here. I do not see we are prepared for the information communication, the age. I don't think we are prepared for the age of information communication technology. Oh, all right. I'm afraid we don't value skeletal lessons to be ICT prepared. Oh, sinabi mo, Miss Yamson. All right. Irene says, knowing the situation of the country, no, we're not ready. Oh, yes, I know, Miss Lee. You know, Miss Lee, we own 2 schools. My maternal grandfather has put up a school sometime in 1928. My paternal grandmother has put up a school sometime in 1940. I'm now a board member of those 2 schools, and I can tell you, we have so much to do. We are not prepared. All right. But we can do it. We still have enough time to do it, so we'll see. All right, so like I said, I asked the question. All right, what astronomer and an indigenous person who knows nothing about science, when you look at the sun, do you see the same things? I believe some of you will probably say no. So we'll get back to your comments later. So imagine a series of tones. Kilala nyo ba si Mother Teresa? Mother Teresa, kilala nyo? Alright, is saint. By the way, ako minsan parang diablong magsalita. Every once in a while, I speak like the devil himself. But let me remind you, I'm also a product of the Jesuits. From elementary to high school, my mentors were all Jesuits. All right, that's the reason why I have that kind of haircut. Not now, not this one. Because my mentors have always insisted on us having short hair. But anyway, Mother Teresa. Imagine her. Can you imagine Mother Teresa singing a song something like this? Who let the dogs out? Ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm just kidding. What's the point? You see, a series of tones like the sun. The sun you can see with your eyes. You can hear a series of tones with your ears. The same series of tones for some will be music. So you dance to it, you enjoy it. But for some other fellow, what is music to you may be noise. The question is, how do you know what is noise and what is music? How do you measure and say, well, this series of tones is music, but for another, you will say, this series of tones is noise. So how do you settle the issue? And guess what? These are the kinds of questions we will deal with later, and these involve questions about mathematics, questions about rules, questions about values, questions about reasoning. All right? So it's going to be exciting. Now, what is it that you do when you reason? All right. This was a photograph thanks to an Australian who did not want his name to be mentioned. And courtesy of him, we have this photograph, original, taken by him. All right, so Egyptians, ancient Egypt. You see, the sun for the ancient Egyptians was a deity. You look at the sun, you're not looking at a thing. You look at the sun, you're not looking at a flaming rock. You look at the sun, you're looking at a God. From the point of view of the Egyptians, a sun is a God. The sun is a God. All right. So what's the point? All right. We know whenever the sun rises, it rises from the east. East. Now, that's a rule. What's the rule? Whenever the sun rises, it rises from the east. Next question. How did you know about the rule? I'm sure you know the rule is that whenever the sun rises, it rises from the east. How do you know the rule? Obviously, you have not learned about the rule in some academic journal. Obviously, you have not learned about the rule in some academic lecture. It is a rule that comes out of your experience. Today, you have that experience. You have had that experience this morning. The sun has risen from the east. One sentence, one thought about one experience, you now put that in your mind, part of your memory. What's your memory? This morning, the sun has risen from the east. But then again, you have another piece of memory in your mind. Yesterday, the sun has also risen from the east. And another piece of memory, the day before yesterday, the sun has risen from the east. And another day, and another day, and another day, and another day. Now you have many thoughts in your mind. Thoughts about the sun rising from the east. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, 100 days, 1,000 days. And all of these are in your mind as experiences, expressed in the form of some sentence or thought. Now, what do? Notice, thanks to your capacity to reason, you are able to look at them as a set, a bunch. A bunch of things having the same characteristic, having the same pattern. And so what do? You now express what you observe of your collection of your thoughts. You now express what you observe, the pattern that you observe, in the form of a thought, in the form of a rule. And what is that rule? Whenever the sun rises, it rises from the east. And guess what? Thanks to that rule that now you know, when you think about tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, you think about the possibility, the probability of the sun rising from the east tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So what are we saying? Thanks to your observation of the whole set of your thoughts, you have a rule. Thanks to your rule, you're now able to see the future. And what is the future? If tomorrow the sun rises, it will rise from the east. And what is the future? If the sun rises the day after tomorrow, it will rise from the east, not from the north, not from the south, not from the west. And so, that is what we are able to do as we reason. As we reason, we are all able to predict the future. We are able, in a way, to become prophets. We have a vision of the future. Guess what? In the olden times, say the time of the ancient Egyptians, when they look into the future, they talk to the gods and the deities. They talk to the gods and the deities, and if they are not able to talk to the gods and the deities, they look for someone, a prophet, who himself talks to the gods and the deities. You see, in the ancient times, they did not think of their thoughts as theirs. Not like us. You have a thought, you put it in writing. You have another thought, you put it in writing. By the time you know it, you already have a poem. Or, if not a poem, you have a song. And then you put music into the song, and because you think you own those thoughts, and therefore that song, and therefore that music, you can sell it. And by the time you know it, you're filthy rich. All right? It happens. You write a book out of your thoughts because those thoughts are yours. You write a poem out of your thoughts because those thoughts are yours. You sell a song because the basis of the song are your thoughts that are yours. But in the ancient times, they did not think that way. They hear voices in their mind. They think these are the voices of the gods and the deities. We'll talk about that later. The point is, in the ancient times, they want to name their kids. They ask the gods and the deities. They want to find out, am I going to win a battle or am I going to lose it? They ask the gods and the deities. Should I plant today these crops? They ask the gods and the deities. Maybe the next day, maybe next month, maybe next year. They ask the gods and the deities. When they want to marry someone, is he compatible with me or not? They ask the gods and the deities. Everything is dependent on the gods and the deities. But guess what? When you're able to reason, you're able to see the future on your own. Not by talking to the gods and the deities, but by simply looking into your thoughts. And looking into your thoughts, depending on your thoughts, independent of the gods and the deities, what do? You are able to predict the future. And guess what? A farmer who can predict the future is a farmer who has more chances of survival. If you know when the rains will come and the rains will not come, then you know when to plant and when not to plant. But if you were a farmer in the ancient times and you do not have a calendar and you have no way of predicting when the rains will come and the rains will not come, what do? You pray to the gods and the deities, and then you plant. If by sheer misfortune, the time you plant is the time when you have your summer time, then you lose your crops, you lose your seeds, you have no harvest. On the other hand, if by sheer luck, you plant your crops at a time when the rains are coming, maybe like June, July, then you expect a good harvest. But how do you know when the rains will come and when the rains will not come? In the absence of a calendar or some systematic way of predicting, then you ask the gods and the deities. Nowadays, we don't do that. Nowadays, we know, for example, that next year, there will be a rise in the price of food. Why? Because 70% of food production in China has been devastated by unfortunate floods. And thanks to the flooding, now China with 1.2 billion people, they have to buy food everywhere where they can get that food. And when they buy food, they will compete with us buying for food, including buying rice. And therefore, there will be more demand for rice. And therefore, there will be high prices for our food, high prices for agricultural products. We can predict that. Not because we are talking to the gods and the deities, but because we look into our thoughts. Thoughts that we have inputted into our minds thanks to many ways that we have learned to do so. And when we will deal with them later on. So, what are we talking about? When you reason, you also are able to predict. When you're able to predict, you're also able to have control over your destiny. And that is what makes humans unique. When you have a piece of rock falling from a hill, has no choice but to fall downhill. The piece of rock cannot say, oh, I wish to go uphill, falling into the sky. You cannot do that. When a human being goes into the future, he has a choice. You have a choice. Every one of you have choices. You can choose either to study this or that, and so in the end, you become a doctor. You have a choice to study this or that, then you become later a lawyer, or an engineer, or an information communication technology specialist, someone who specializes in artificial intelligence. It's all up to you. Thanks to our heritage from the ancient Greeks, we know philosophy. Thanks to philosophy, we know logic. Thanks to logic, we know so much about mathematics as we know them today. And so we are able to predict the future independent of the gods and the deities, dependent on our capacity to reason. If you go to Quezon Hall, you will notice something. Caisson has steps and columns very much like the steps and columns that you see in Greek structures or Roman structures, Greco-Roman heritage. It's the same with Palma Hall, and it's the same with Melchor Hall. It is not an accident that this university has many edifices that are inspired by the ancient Greeks. It is not an accident that if you go to the United States and visit the Senate Hall of the senators, you will see their Greek structures and Greek edifices. The same with the White House. The same with the House of Representatives of the United States. If you go to London, it's the same. The House of the Parliament is inspired so much also by the Greeks. Same in France. Same in Germany, the Bundestag, it's inspired by the ancient Greeks. And what's the reason? Because has been the ancient Greeks who have invented philosophy and therefore logic. And so for your very first assignment, so here goes your assignment. For your very first assignment, can you see this? Wikipedia. Some of you might not want to use Wikipedia, but let me tell you, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a data science, a group of data scientists who compared the data that you get out of the Wikipedia and the data that you get out of Encyclopedia Britannica. Here it is. All right, can you see that? Encyclopedia Britannica, ancient Greece. And they compared, and it turns out that Wikipedia is only less accurate by less than 1% compared to Encyclopedia Britannica. And so, from my point of view, well, if it's reliable, and I think that's reliable, the research, then might as well use Wikipedia. So, what's your homework? Okay. Let me call your attention to our course pack. Can you see it? Course pack, here it is. Excuse me. With the course pack, I have included here two appendices. One appendix, here it is. Appendix 1, History of Philosophy, Science, and Democracy. Democracy as we know it today, and later philosophy as we know it today, and later science as we know it today, have their roots in ancient Greece. And so that's the reason why you see all those edifices here at the university, and same in the United States and Europe. The foundation of what we today call Western civilization is the civilization of ancient Greece. Ancient Greece beginning around circa 600 years BC. And so, for your assignment, because we will be dealing with many details involving the invention of philosophy and the invention of democracy, for your assignment, please read on the ancient Greeks, and therefore ancient Greece, ancient Greek history, using either Encyclopedia Britannica, that's our first choice, or if you don't like that, the Wikipedia. Or you can read my piece. This comes from a publication I had in the 1990s, taken from my book of mine, Social Political Philosophy, 1991. Whew, I'm old. Anyway, two things that you have to read on. What are these? Philosophy and democracy. Let me repeat. Philosophy and democracy. We will deal with science second half of the semester. All right? You will see that without the invention of democracy, that's why that's important in Asia, we cannot have philosophy. But later, as you will see, without philosophy, less probable that we will get science. All right? All boils down to democracy. Thanks to democracy, we have philosophy. Thanks to philosophy, we have science. That's the reason why even in ancient China, with all its technology, ancient China has never been able to produce what we today call the scientific method and later science. Has so much to do with democracy. All right? It's one of the important lessons you'll take away out of this class. You will see the very value of democracy. The value of democracy to philosophy, the value of democracy to science, the value of democracy to the invention of artificial intelligence. Even artificial intelligence has to depend on democracy. Why? I'll tell you about it later. All right, let's get back to everyone's comments. Did you put in more comments? Let me see. Oh, different person. Okay, Miss Castro. This different person, she thinks differently depending on their knowledge about it. Yes. Our past and prior experiences, Miss De Castro, will affect how we see things. You live with the Inuits, you know, the people of Alaska, the people of Greenland, the people of Norway and Sweden, indigenous people of these places. They have more than 200 ways of pointing to snow. You come to the Philippines, we only have 2 ways of pointing to snow. Now, when we look at snow, do we see the same snow? Probably not. All right, I think they see the same thing, literally bright light, but have different ideas about what it is. Miss Arada, when you have different ideas about something, does that mean you see the same thing? We'll deal with that. They do not see the same thing, sabi ni Miss Amarile of. All right, same. They will be seeing the same thing, sabi ni Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee says, they will be seeing the same thing in some sense, but they won't in another. Oh, they see the same things, but they don't see the same things. What do you call that? All right? And that's exactly what we have been pointing out earlier, all right? As Mr. Lee is expressing, they will be seeing the same thing in some sense, and they won't in another. Let me hold on to that. As I have pointed out, you have one thought, and another thought, and another thought, and another thought. We want to put them together. When you put them together, you have a machine. And the machine you call a mental model. You will come across that expression many times in your generation. It is your generation that has actually come to use it more often than not. Your generation is using that expression now, mental model. And different individuals with their different past and prior experiences come to have different mental models. And when you have different mental models, some mental models, when they predict the future, they predict better than other mental models. But no mental model can predict the future all the time. And so, we will see the limits of reasoning when we deal with mental models and how our thoughts hang together in our minds. Because as Mr. Lee has come to realize, we cannot but accept that some of our thoughts will contradict, will be in conflict, will be inconsistent with some of our other thoughts. In the world of art, we call that pain. And artists, they know so much pain about this universe. And thanks to the pain that the artists feel, then we become aware of this. And becoming aware of this pain, we are aware of the roots of the pain. We try to work our way around them. And then we end up with a better mental model, working with better prediction. So that's how we are going to see our work. Our work is all about putting together our thoughts, so that coming together with all our thoughts, we will be able to predict the future with more accuracy, and therefore we will have more control over our destinies. There was a President Erap Estrada, who did not get that much handle about his thoughts, had so many contradictions in his mind. And given so many of his conflicts in his mind, he predicted the economy is going in this direction. But the economy went in some other direction. And so where did he end up in? He ended up in jail. We do not like a society that is not able to have control over its destiny. And that's the first step. The first step to have control over our destiny as a nation is to be able to look into our minds, look into our thoughts as individuals, later as communities, and see how we can put them together such that we end up with a mental model, a machinery that can help us predict the future with more accuracy and therefore more control over our destinies. All right? And it all begins with studying the ancient Greeks. All right? For next meeting, I expect everyone to have read about the ancient Greeks. Yung mga tamad, those who do not have enough time, or maybe it's the other way around, those who have more time on their hands, let me repeat, those who have more time on their hands, you might want to read, that's one, either Encyclopedia Britannica, Wikipedia, or my work. And in addition, if you notice, I gave you some links about video episodes that we are going to deal with in class. One of them is about the ancient Greeks. You may want to watch them. All right? Actually, there are several videos available, publicly available for everyone to use. It's up to you. So long as it's about the ancient Greeks, that's good enough. And then we'll deal with them next meeting. All right? If you have more questions, you can either send these questions through email. I will deal with them tonight. Or put them under our chat with our Google Classroom unit. Or if you are signed in to your YouTube account, you can bring them up as YouTube chat comments, and I will deal with them later. And then you can see my responses to them tomorrow. All right? So it's now 3:47. So I should be giving you more time for your next classes. All right? Before we go, let me look at some more of your comments. Okay, wala nang ibang dagdag na comment. So I'll see you next meeting. When is that? Tuesday, next meeting. Anything you need to ask me, just go for it. Again, let me repeat to everyone, for everyone, you're all free to criticize me. You're all free to give comments as much as you can. And I will live with them. I will have to deal with them. All right? So, good afternoon to everyone. See you next meeting Tuesday. All right, as we get the hang of this, we will get more and more participation. Tuesday, we will be using Mentimeter, all right, so get to have an account with it. There will be more interaction with that. And hopefully, Tuesday, I will also be able to fix my problem with my security of my account with Facebook, and therefore we can also have For those of you who want to use Facebook, Google Facebook Interaction. All right, everybody, end of broadcast. Good afternoon. I hope you enjoy your weekend.